Welcome, everybody, to the Better Together Summit. I am so excited to have this conversation today with our senior therapist with over 30 years of experience. I want to introduce you to Miss Brenda Moore. She has been doing some phenomenal work with our couples. And today we are talking about how to win at life and win at marriage. Miss Moore, could you share with the people more about who you are and what you do in the world?
Okay, I'm Brenda Moore. I have a master's degree in psychology and have worked in this field over 40 years, working with couples and individuals and helping them live their best lives.
So, today we are talking about how to win at life and win at marriage. Let's first get into what defeats couples, because I know you have been helping heal people, transform lives. What are some of the places that you see that people kind of get stuck and defeated in their marriage?
They get defeated because they want to be right, okay? And they are so married to getting their message out there. And so communication impacts how the relationship flows and the productivity of the relationships because they're so busy trying to respond to what their partner has said that they're out sending the message and the relationship becomes competitive.
Now, I know in my work, sometimes I see that people do this because they're not feeling heard. And that's where like that feeling of wanting to like be right or become competitive comes up. But what do you see in your work as some of the reasons why people do this, wanting to be right and being super competitive? Why do we do that?
Well, it's triggering from past relationships. Sometimes it's triggering from our childhood. There's sometimes things we have seen in our childhood, and we get so committed to, I'm not going to be like my mother. I'm not going to be like other couples that I've seen. And so instead of working in our individual relationships, we're carrying baggage. And because we're carrying baggage, we're always reacting to the baggage and we're being triggered.
Is there a way that we can assess what are the aspects of our childhood that we want to maintain and what are the aspects that are not healthy?
One of the things we need to do is always make a decision that you're going to continue to grow, that you're going to continue to evolve into being that better person and being very much aware of who you are so that you can communicate clear messages to your partner. Sometimes we're not clear on where we are with things. And sometimes you need counseling, you need help, you need a support system to help you and to give you feedback. You need accountability. All of these things help us to be a better version of ourselves.
So, what is it about accountability? Because I know that that's something that you provide a lot of to the couples that you counsel. But what do you think it is that makes that so important that people have accountability?
Because you end up counseling yourself. And because you're counseling yourself, then you're telling yourself that you're right. Okay. And so we need accountability so somebody can clearly communicate to us what we're saying and how we're coming across to give us feedback. That is so critical to our growth. I know individually and me personally, I have a group of people that I'm held that holds me accountable to what I say and to what I do. And as a result of getting that feedback, then I have to take a look at myself because so many times you're looking at your partner and you're seeing everything that your partner's doing wrong without being able to really look at yourself and say, maybe I could have been clearer in my communication, or maybe I could have been nicer in my approach. There are several things in communicating that we have to look at. We have to look at, is this the right time? Is this the right place? Should I be even saying this? All of these things impact our relationship and can be defeating if we don't get it right.
That is such a great point to really ask yourself these questions like, is this the right time to have this conversation? Is this the right setting? Because if you're trying to talk to your husband in the middle of the Super Bowl or a football game, he's probably not going to be in the best position to really hear you and take in what you're saying. So that's such a great point. Um, when you think about like your own story, like the experiences that you've had, can you go to a moment in your life when you felt defeated and how you were able to come out of it?
Well, this is not my first marriage, okay? And one of the things that happened in my first marriage, sometimes I would win the battle, but I lost the war, okay? And sometimes we get so motivated to win that as a result, we're so busy trying to win that we lose our relationship, okay? And so sometimes we're defeated because we have a goal, and the goal is not so that the two of us can get along and create success. It becomes competitive. And when we competitive with our partner, then no one wins.
Wow. That is such a good point that sometimes you can win the battle, like the argument, the disagreement, but then lose the war, which is like your actual relationship, your marriage. Thank you so much for sharing your experiences. When you think about couples that are able to successfully navigate the challenges of life, maybe they have felt defeated at one point and now they're trying to overcome that defeat and they're trying to get to a space where they are connected again. What do you say to that couple
Well, I tell
coming
them,
out of the defeat?
yes, each couple will have to set up rules that work for them. And so in working with couples, that's some of the things I do. The three of us work together to decide what are the rules for our relationship. And we're clear. These rules and this guidance and these strategies are individualized to what that couple want and what they need. Okay. And so when we're able to do that and sit down and say, okay, you know, I realize that this does not work for me. And so we're going to set up rules and how we communicate. We're also going to be okay if we don't finish a conversation because sometimes we need some space to really sit down and think about what our partner has said so that we can make sure that we understood what was said and that we don't make it an attack against ourselves. And so often we tell ourselves, well, if he loved me more, he would change. Or if I did this, if he did this. And surprisingly, you would be surprised how many couples come to counseling or coaching because they're like, if you just change my partner, we're going to be fine. But it's critical that both people make a conscious decision that they're going to die to self. You got to be committed to changing and let go some of the things that you've held on to because they will not take you to your promised land. They won't take you to the success that you desire in your relationship.
That is such a great point. Like having rules of engagement and like really being clear about what those rules are. Can you give us an example, like for the couples that are listening and they're on that brink of defeat or coming out of the challenge? What are some rules that you have found that were successful with the couples that you work with?
One of the things is we're going to go to a place where we can communicate and make sure the setting is correct. Make sure the time is correct. And also make a conscious decision that I'm going to communicate with you without raising my voice. Okay. Because as Black, sometimes we speak so passionate because we feel so strongly. And one of the things I had to do is change my tone when I'm talking to my husband. When I recognize that I am communicating and things are going to the left, that's the time for me to back off because nothing's going to happen once it gets to that point. And so I have to control the things that I can control, and that is changing my voice, changing my tone, and decide, okay, just because I have a thought, I don't need to repeat that thought 3 times. and say the same thing over and over, because obviously my partner is not hearing and I'm not expressing myself in a way that he can receive it. And so these are little things that you learn in years of experience of communicating and wanting to be able to resolve issues. Sometimes we just want to talk and we just want to get our point, but the purpose of communication is so that we can be effective with each other and make changes that's going to create success. And we miss that goal altogether because we're so busy wanting to win.
I think that's why it's so crucial to have a coach, to have someone to guide you, to someone to say like, "Whoa, you just stepped in something. Let me help you get out of that. Let me help you pick that up cuz you just dropped the ball." Like we need someone to help guide us and not try to figure it out on our own. It can be
And not be
costly mistakes.
and not be so judgmental, because some
Mm.
people forget that, you know what, we're not perfect either, and we're making mistakes in the relationship. And if you've gone through hell and back, then you realize how important it is, okay, to create some wins between the two of you. If I win all the time, then I lose the relationship.
Mm.
Here, not only do I win, but also my partner wins. I have to be willing to compromise. I have to be willing to listen. And if I'm not willing to do those things, if I'm not willing to allow my partner to sometimes win, then it doesn't just impact me, it impacts our family, impacts our community, because I don't become the best version of myself. And so it's important for me to realize, and as a couple, you have to set goals, and they need to be goals that both parties understand, both parties are married to, they're measurable, so we know when we're achieving success. And sometimes we spend so time looking at what's wrong that we don't celebrate our successes.
Can you talk a little bit about that, like celebrating your successes? Like, what gets in the way of people doing that? And what are some ways that they can be more intentional about it?
Well, one of the things that I am very intentional is I'm going to always say thank you. I'm going to always appreciate my partner. I'm going to always say, hey, baby, you look good. You wearing that suit. I'm going to always give them the feedback that they need. Because if they're not receiving it from me, if they're not receiving it at home, then that's when it becomes a bigger issue, because it includes other people that's communicating with them and taking care of their needs. It's very important to appreciate what people do. And sometimes when we're married, we feel like, well, they just doing what they're supposed to do. No, they're not just doing what they're supposed to do. We need to appreciate when people are good to us, when people are nice to us. I hear a lot of people talking about the love languages, and I do understand that they're important, but it's important also to celebrate everything that your partner brings to you. If they're communicating, if they're confirming things to you, if they're bringing you gifts, if they show their love through taking care of you, fixing you that meal. All of those things I appreciate. And I'm going to make sure my partner understands that I appreciate these things. I appreciate when we wash clothes together and we fold the clothes and we put them on hangers. All of those things matter. It's the little things in the relationship that you do together that creates traditions. And not only that, you set examples for your kids so that they can see how a relationship works. It's not just about having a good time, it's about the kids watching us work together to achieve. Okay? One person cannot do it all. And so we need to do things together, whether that's cleaning the car, whether that's making the beds. All those things bring you together. And these small activities, you'll be surprised at the difference that it makes in the relationship. And so you just have to be extremely intentional in spending quality time together.
One of the things that really stands out to me about like celebrating successes is sometimes we don't. Like sometimes people don't celebrate their accomplishments. Like I was counseling a couple the other day and I remember, without giving any specific details, but intimacy was something that they were struggling with. They hadn't had sex in over a year, and then as a result of us working together and then really getting some great tools and strategies on how they can re-engage each other and get more connected, they had sex. And I was like, oh my God, we gotta celebrate that, y'all. Like it's been a long time. We have to celebrate every single win.
Yeah,
And it's
yeah.
interesting to me that sometimes we don't do that.
And it's basic behavior mod, okay? If we want to increase the number of times that we are successful in things, then give rewards. Communicate. I noticed what you did. I noticed that you made the bed, okay? Whatever the small things are, we need to applaud that and we need to appreciate it. It makes a big difference. There's nothing better that I can do with my partner than make sure that when my partner leaves the house, they're smiling. They're feeling good about themselves, because when they feel good about themselves, they're more productive in their job. They're more productive in every area of their life. And I have a part to play in that, just like my partner has a part to play in me being okay. I can feel good about myself and I can do a good job when I've left home and I feel good because my partner recognizes my strengths. So,
That's such a great point that it makes you want to do even more when your spouse notices your effort, when they say like, hey, like I see you, babe, like I saw
yeah.
you clean that refrigerator. Like those things like make you want to like meet their needs when they go recognize and there's appreciation. And so I love that you said that. Let's talk a little bit about the power couples that you work with, because I know that you work with some pretty influential, high powered couples, affluent couples. And sometimes we can have this idea that um, when you have money, like there's no problems. But the reality is, like, money doesn't solve all problems. Can you talk a little bit about what are some of the things that you see facing high powered couples?
Some of the same things that other couples face, okay? You can see that in people that make a lot of money, okay? Because you take you wherever you go. And if you don't resolve the issues of childhood, if you don't resolve the issues of past relationships, you come into that relationship bringing that baggage. And so maybe you were involved with someone in your previous relationship and that was infidelity issues. And so your partner may do something, maybe something that your last partner did. And if you don't get that taken care of, if you're not healed from that, you will bleed into your new relationship and it impacts the relationship. So money does not change anything. It just sometimes makes things worse because you have the ability to do other things that you could not afford if you were struggling. And so one of the things that I say to everybody, let's figure it out. Let's start at the beginning. Let's talk about, okay, what's important to the two of you as a couple. I go back to kindergarten in a relationship from the very basics and build a foundation that's strong and that can hold up the relationship based upon the destiny that God has for you. If you have a destiny where you can impact change in large communities, then you need to make sure that foundation is straight. And we do that through spiritual principles, okay? That's important in some of the coaching and counseling that I do. I make sure that we are strong in what we believe in. Okay, if you're telling me that this is your belief system, we're going to work together, the three of us, and make sure that we're clear on our value system so that when we're raising our kids, okay, we understand that both of us believe this, okay? We may believe, okay, as kids, yes, You have a good life, but we need to work together to teach our children to be responsible. That means, yes, you may have a nanny. Yes, you may have someone that cleans up, but you still pick up behind yourself. So, all of these things, these foundational conversations, we have to have them with our successful couples. And one of the things that I found out, couple they have good communication, they are more successful in achieving their goals because the goals are clear. They have talked about them, they have agreed upon them, and they're not moved by what they see, they're not moved by what they hear, they're not moved by the challenges of life. People that are very clear in where they're headed and their destination, then their decisions support that. And that's what works with powerful couples, but it's also work with couples that's just getting started. If you that couple and both of you are making minimal wages, but you work together and you have a goal, and that goal is okay, we're going to buy a house. Let's talk about in detail, what does that look like? What does our saving plan look like? So everybody understand what's my role in it. It cannot just be one person. We have to work together. Whatever your partner brings that adds to that relationship, you have to value that. And that's the difference in power couples. They value what their partner brings to the relationship.
And I wonder if we could talk a little bit about some of the challenges that power couples experience. One of the things that sometimes I see is this image of the couple versus the reality of what the couple may be experiencing. Sometimes when you are in a position of power, a position of influence, there's this outside world of how the couple looks, how they look on social media, and then there's sometimes this inner world of like, yeah, we just did this, but then we got into an argument after that. But how do you see couples kind of navigating that public image versus their personal life? And does it matter? Does this public versus private image matter?
It does matter because, first of all, in order to be successful as a power couple, you need to know your value. Okay? You need to know your value and you need to know the value of your partner. And understanding that, because the more powerful, the more money you have, then of course there's jealousy, okay? There is always somebody coming after you. When you know who you are, okay? For me, I know I'm a powerful woman of God, okay? And so I know that I don't have to keep my relationship because I've given my relationship to God and He keeps it, okay? And so as a result of that, I'm not moved by someone giving my husband attention. I'm not moved because I know that he's fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I know he's good looking. I know all these things. I know his value. And I'm not surprised when someone else sees his value. Okay. I can appreciate that piece of it because I recognize it. And so I'm not moved. You cannot be emotionally moved by everything you see and hear. If you are, then it can be detrimental to your relationship. And so some of the things that people face as a power couple is those things. When you are not secure in who you are, then it causes problems because you have to allow God to define you. Once God has defined you, you're not easily moved. Okay. You know what you bring to the table and you know that you're valued. And because you know what you're valued and you walk in the integrity of yourself in that relationship, you know your strength, you know your position, and you know your power.
That is so good. I work with professional athletes and musicians, and sometimes I see that there's a lot of attention that the male, the husband may be getting. And for the wives that are able to kind of navigate that situation, a lot of times it is understanding, like you said, their value and not feeling like this attention that their spouse is getting because of their role, their career, that it takes away from what they've built. Like being clear about, like, we have something that is special, that's meaningful, that the world doesn't get that. And then you have that outside your job like role, and they are very clear about like the boundaries that exist in those relationships. So I love what you said. Wonder any other insights that you have for our couples that are in influential positions, how they can navigate power and leadership and
And
compromise.
have your identity. Okay. You're not just the wife or the husband of this influential person. Okay. You are a person. And because of that, walk in the integrity of who you are, because you were created for purpose also. And when you're walking in that and you have a life, yes, you have to understand, yes, we have a life together as a couple, but we also have an individual life. And when I'm walking in my destiny, when I'm walking in what God has created for me to do, then I'm not moved by what my partner does. Okay. I'm not seeking my identity through who he is. And you will notice power couples that appear to be successful in being able to work through this and been married and together for years and years, both of them have their lane, and they're not trying to be in their partner's lane. Okay. And I'll give you a good example. Dolly Parton's husband just passed away. Okay. And one of the things that's been all over media is that he had no desire to be in the public. Okay. And they were married 60 years. Okay. And no one really saw him, but they had a very successful marriage, and he was sure and clear on who he was and what his position was in that relationship. And that's extremely important to understand that in the beginning of the two of you coming together. This is who I am. This is how I operate best. This is how I support you. And as a result of that, all of that is worked out and it's clear to both of us with an understanding and an agreement that this works. Sometimes you're not able to do that on your own. And so therefore you may need support in being able to accomplish that. But it's critical for your success for each of you to figure out and define, what is my role in this relationship? How do I operate best? And how do the two of us get the best from each other without me trying to make me, and you trying to make me, you? Because iron sharpens iron. Both of us are needed, okay? And most of the time, we're opposite. And so when we come together, I know for me, my husband is a true extrovert. I'm an introvert, okay? So I don't need to try to walk in his lane. I don't need to try to be the extrovert out of us. I just need to be comfortable in me being him, me being me, and he walking in who he is. I remember during COVID, okay? I was excited because, okay, now we're going to get a chance to be at home, spend time together. It was very difficult for him because he's an extrovert. He needed to be around people. I needed to understand that and not be offended because he was no longer able to be around people, and understand that need in him, that it's okay that you need to be around people and be accepted and not feel like it's taking something away from me, the fact that he need other people to talk to, because he loves to talk. I joke all the time with him. You talk to a tree, you're going to talk to somebody. Okay, you're going to go to the store and see somebody, you're going to meet somebody at the store. So I know when I go to the store, he's going to meet somebody, he's going to talk to somebody. They may share numbers. Okay, that is not the way I operate, but I understand how important that is for him to be okay. And so understanding your partner and being accepting of who your partner is without trying to change that person, that's what creates success in a relationship.
We want you guys to create a win in life and a win, and we want you definitely to win in your marriage. Ms. Moore has given such great tools and feedback and questions that you can ask that can deepen the dialogue that you're having with your spouse. I think the key that I really like of what you said, Ms. Moore, is not taking things personally, like you've been with your husband over 30 years. And so you've gotten the knowledge, the awareness of like, okay, this is not something I should take personally. He wants to engage and talk to people. That's how he feels alive. And so I can imagine that probably some couples may take something like that personally. And basically, you're challenging us to say, no, don't take it personally. This is who your spouse is. Is
Yes.
that right?
Yes, and one thing I want to share with you, I didn't always get it right, okay? One of the things that you get if you work with me, okay? Because I am a coach, okay? I'm a counselor. I work at Atlanta Couple Therapy. But one of the things you're going to get from me, I made a lot of mistakes in the very beginning. Continue to make mistakes, but I'm going to share you my wounds and I'm going to tell you, you can go down this road, but it's not going to create the success you want because I've been there. I want to make sure that people understand, okay, you're not going to always get it right, but it's okay. But remember your commitment to each other, okay? Remember that no matter what happens, we get to press restart. The Bible talks about renewing your mind. You have to spend time with God so that you will be able to manage this path. I married my husband 30 years ago. On March 25th, it will be 30 years, okay? And we have gone through hell and back. But I want to say to you that through it all, okay, you can always start all over. You can make a conscious decision and say, you know what? But you got to be willing to apologize. You got to be willing to work together. You got to be willing to say, I'm sorry. All of those things create success. Sit down, be humble, okay? And allow God to renew you because through your relationship, it's going to bring you closer to God. If you really, really want a successful marriage, be open to God, allowing God to change you because He's going to change you into His image. And that's what's going to make that successful relationship that you're hoping for.
That is so good. I think that you really touched on some really great points. I wonder if you, as we start to prepare to close, can you share with couples, last question, if all the couples in the world were listening right now, what's one parting piece of guidance that you can give to them around strengthening their spiritual foundation, practical strategies?
Spend some time with God, okay? Just open your heart up to allow God to lead you, okay? Go back to the word. Study how God defines love. Everybody have a different definition of love, but God loved us so much that He defined what love is. He said love is kind, love is forgiving. And because once you understand what love is, then you're able to walk in it. And you're not defining love based upon your selfishness. You're defining it based upon what God says love is. And you got to be willing to die in the relationship. You got to be willing to change. You got to say, our success is more important than me being right. I don't mind apologizing. I don't mind saying, I blew it. That's what it takes to have that successful relationship. It's to being humble. It's to dying to yourself and say, you know what? I didn't get it right then, but I get another chance tomorrow to make it right. And so apologizing and doing what it takes for the two of you to come back together. Don't always feel like you have to win because if you're winning all the time, you have already defeated your relationship. Your relationship is lost. But you get a chance to press reset and say, you know what? We're going to work on this together. We're going to come up and agree upon where we're headed. And we're going to do it together. It's not going to just be what I want. It's going to be what the two of us want. And therefore, because we did it with God and decided where we're headed, then we're on the same page. And so because we're on the same page, then we can get to the destination that God has for us to achieve our destiny.
This is so good. This is so good. I believe that once couples get on the same page about their destiny and get aligned in their action of what they're working on daily, it changes the game. It changes their whole life. I mean, the Bible talks about how can two walk together unless they agree. So it's so much power in agreement, being on the same accord. Miss Moore, thank you for coming today and doing
You.
this summit interview. Like, I know that couples' lives are going to be transformed by hearing your message, hearing your practical tools and strategies, but also hearing your story of how you've been able to navigate over 30 years of marriage. What a major accomplishment that is. And also I love how you shared like transparently your life with your couples that you counsel. I want to invite everyone to make a decision today that you're not going to continue to do life alone and bump your head trying to figure it out, but you're going to invest in a real solution. And I want to invite you to go to our website, atlantacoupletherapy.com, and you can book a session with Miss Brenda Moore right there on the website. You've gotten a taste of what it's like working with her. When you actually invest in yourself in working with her, it changes the game. You build longevity. People are purchasing homes. People are getting new like career ideas. Couples are able to go on vacation together. The couples that she works with, their lives are different because they're on the same page spiritually. So if you're feeling like I need some support, I need some guidance, we got it for you.
And let me say something to you. One of the things that's so important is having a desire to change. That's the most important thing that you can do is wanting a better life. If you're doing the same thing you did last year, if you're doing the same thing you did 2 years ago, then I'm telling you, I want people that's ready for change, that they can't wait to change their lives, okay? Because I'm going to give you what God has given me, okay? And it's an opportunity to live your best life, okay? But you got to be willing and you have to have a sincere desire to change. And that's the people I'm called to. I am called to people that's just tired of doing the same thing over and over, getting the same results and wondering why it's not working. Because I can tell you, because I'm going to use God's word to transform your life. Not my word, but God's word.
If you want a coach that can get you together spiritually, I mean, where you and your spouse are on the same page spiritually, and trust me, women tell me all the time, they say, like, oh, I don't know if my spouse wants to go to counseling, my husband doesn't want to do therapy. And then he gets in session with this lady right here, Miss Moore, and you as a couple start to think differently, start to move differently, start to resolve conflict quickly. Game over. That is a game changer for your life. So we thank you again for tuning in to our summit, and I invite you to take the next steps. Go to atlantacoupletherapy.com and book a session with Miss Moore.
Thank
Have an
you.
amazing rest of the day.
Thank you.